Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, the 12th of May 2015, just after 1 o'clock. And welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host this afternoon, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio behind the technical desk is Nick Green. Well, what's the weather doing? I'm delighted to say it is blue sky and sunshine in Plymouth. Quite outstanding start to the day. And I think a few of you are reporting that you've also got a bit of sunshine across the rest of UK. So enjoy it while it lasts. Meanwhile, the political situation in UK seems to get increasingly darker. Now, UK Column is waiting for the final names to be launched as David Cameron builds his government. We're going to be having a look at the people and positions in due course. But today we're going to take a little bit of a concentrated look at how the British state under all three parties has been ramping up propaganda, it would seem, to make the public increasingly frightened. Now, yesterday we talked about an Express article which was saying that MI5 was recruiting people to basically persuade those who might be tempted to go overseas and fight for ISIS that they were going to persuade them not to do that. And these handlers were also going to infiltrate any recruiting systems. Now, this was the article. We'll just bring it back up on screen. And the bit we really want to highlight is this bit here, because it said that the MI5 handlers will learn how to elicit information and deploy persuasion and negotiation to find the truth and gain life-saving intelligence. And it said this was an ambitious campaign. It said that a staggering 700 Britons are thought to be fighting and an estimated 300 have already returned. We pointed out that it was all estimates. There didn't seem to be any definitive statements of numbers. And of course, we also pointed out that if we had a look back in time at the Lee Rigby murder, that there were many sources talking about the fact that the two men involved, so Mr. Adebolaja and Adebowale, had both claimed to have been harassed and indeed tortured by MI5 or agents of MI5. Widely reported in the national press. One story carried by BBC was actually broadcast, a mirror story talking about the possible possible radicalization of one of the team also disappeared from the internet. So the point from UK Column is essentially, can we trust sources of information which are increasingly telling the British public to be fearful on all occasions? Well, let's stick with the Express, and here's the latest article, all back on the same theme. Islamic State Terror Manual tells jihadis how to make a bomb and to always carry condoms. Now, what is this about? Well, here is the so-called document, a Mujahid guide, how to survive in the West, and it's been provided by Memory. So we thought we should delve into this article in a little bit more detail to see what exactly the Express was trying to do. So let's have a gentle work through this. So here's our original article, and what we're interested in is Memory. Well, Memory is the Middle East Media Research Institute. It says it's an online terrorist monitoring service that obtained the journal. And of course, this is the paragraph taken out of the Express article. So let's call them up on screen. Here they are. It says they've been exploring the Middle East and South Asia through their media, and it bridges the language gap between West and the Middle East and South Asia, and they do timely translations of Arabic, Farsi, Urdu, etc. Well, this little bit caught our eye because it says that Memory was founded in February 1998 to inform debate over US policy in the Middle East. But we shouldn't worry because, according to Memory, it is an independent, non-partisan, non-profit organisation which has got main offices in Washington, D.C. It translates into English, French, Polish, Japanese, Spanish, and Hebrew. So quite right, the Express has brought this organisation into their article, and we're reassured to read in their own words that, of course, they're independent. Well, are they? Let's come and have a look at this little lot here. Basically, they tell us a bit more about themselves. They've got an Arab and Iranian TV monitoring project, and it says that basically, if we can call this in, here we are, the Memory TV project monitors over 50 channels around the clock from Iran and the Arab world. So this quickly leads us to understand that this organisation is not a small organisation, but there's no mention, of course, on their website about where their real funding comes from. But let's remember they're independent, and down at the bottom of the screen are some details of their board of directors and advisors. Now, understand the writing's a little bit small there. We should be able to blow a little bit of that up, possibly an inappropriate comment there on UK Column News, but we'll move on. So here we are. Memory's board of advisors and directors comprises a group of distinguished figures in government, media, law and academia. Among them are former prime ministers, attorney general, justice ministers, leading legal and counter-terrorism experts, and recipients of the most prestigious awards, including the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, it goes on, and it says that this group includes former United States government officials, such as the director of the CIA, Secretary of the Navy, Director of Operations with FBI, ambassadors to the UN, Iraq, EU, Romania, Secretary of Education, Deputy Defence Secretary. So these are all independent people, of course, and they also boast down at the bottom here that the Board of Advisors are bipartisan and have honourably served trustworthy presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. So we challenge the Express because when we delve into the substance of this organisation, of course, it's clear that Memory is anything but independent, and what we have is an extremely powerful organisation, totally aligned with the American political system, and therefore we may suspect that the information they bring out into the world is coloured in one particular direction. Well, if we need a little bit more reassurance of the nature of the independence of Memory, let's see whether we can have a look in detail at the names of their particular board of directors and board of advisors. We're bringing this up on screen. Of course, you're able to see this yourself simply by visiting the site. So what have we got at the moment? Well, we've got Oliver Buck Revell, chairman, former FBI executive assistant director. He's done a lot of counter-terrorism work, criminal investigation. Steve Emerson, director of the investigative project, and he's a terrorism expert. Jeffrey Kaufman, leading intellectual property lawyer. Not sure where he fits in, but it sounds good. We've got Robert Riley, former senior advisor at the Department of Defense and chairman of the Committee for Western Civilization. It's glad somebody's looking after us there. We've got judges, and we've got Reed Morden, who's been closely involved with atomic energy in Canada. Well, let's scroll down through a few more. We should be able to gently animate this, hopefully. Let's see, it should start to roll. We've got a professor from Princeton University, Bernard Lewis. We've got Elie Wiesel, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. Jose Maria Aznar, former Prime Minister of Spain. Donald Rumsfeld. And well, I think we're beginning to move finally. Let's let it carry on down the screen a bit. We've got former ambassador to the European Union. We've got a former Prime Minister of Israel. And we've got a variety of other major international names, but with, it would appear, totally unknown CVs. So what is the Express actually doing in this article? Well, of course, it's taking a statement from these individuals, which is effectively straight out of the American Foreign Policy Guide, and it's feeding them to the British public as if this is an independent assessed organisation. So we'll bring you back onto another topic which we covered yesterday, which is in face of this fear-mongering for the British nation. This is what our police are doing. And we pointed out, this is an article from back in November 2014, but the police were accused of spreading fear after issuing terror advice leaflets to commuters. And a UKIP councillor, Lawrence Webb, had written, "Spreading terror and fear, not extremists, the police, commuters told to run and hide in leaflet distributed by the police." So we could say that the police are innocent. They are simply responding to the intelligence that's being put forward. Of course, the Express itself is helping to fuel the fear by quoting what we would describe as highly suspect sources. Well, what else have the police been up to in Britain? What UK Column is increasingly aware of is the fact that the police in England and Wales are following the Scottish model in arming the police. This is not a subject which has been debated in Parliament. It's not a subject which is being debated by local politicians. However, we are now in a situation where an increasing number of armed police are appearing on Britain's streets, largely under the excuse of a major terrorist threat. Well, this got particularly interesting down in Devon and Cornwall when Devon and Cornwall police were challenged over armed police on the streets. And in a remarkable exchange of tweets, they became very confused over whether indeed Devon and Cornwall police were armed or were not armed. And this took place with a short exchange between our very own Nick Green and Devon and Cornwall police. So this is the first key line. When Nick Green had said quite rightly that Devon and Cornwall police were armed, back came Devon and Cornwall police in their own tweet and said, "Nick, not sure where you have heard this, but I can assure you that it is not true." So there's no ifs or buts. Devon and Cornwall police simply denying that there were armed police at work in Devon and Cornwall, and they were prepared to make that statement publicly. So let's have a look at how it then went. Quite rightly, Nick Green gave them a polite thank you, but he then provided some more information because he said the armed constables were attending a minor traffic incident, which was absolutely correct. He further went on to state that the two constables who arrived in a BMW MX-5 were both armed and well qualified to comment. He said that they were armed with Sig Sauer P229, and indeed Nick Green was able to speak to those particular constables. So faced with details of the weapons that Devon and Cornwall police actually carried, Devon and Cornwall police then sent out this tweet. "This would be an armed response unit involved in some traffic duties, happens regularly." So we're just going, I beg your pardon, sorry, we're just going to say, I'll bring that up on, stay with me, we'll bring this up on screen again, sorry about that. Here we go. We're just going to say that here is the confusion. At one stage, Devon and Cornwall police say it's totally untrue that they're armed police, but when given the evidence that, of course, there are an increasing number of armed police on the streets, they say quite calmly, well, these are traffic police and it happens regularly. So UK Column's decision is who actually made the decision that Devon and Cornwall police would be armed, and on what basis do we need armed police patrolling, for example, the A38 and M5? Well, we would believe that what we're seeing happen is a creeping police state, and of course in a dictatorship you need the police to be fully armed. Scotland has now assumed the status of a police state. We have no separation of powers in Scotland between the judiciary, the police and political circles, indeed a one-party state. And now we see, without any debate in Parliament, that police south of the border are also going to be armed. What can we do about it? Well, we need the public to be informed, and what better way than to attend one of the conferences, either with the British Constitution Group and indeed many other people who are now bringing members of the public together. But we will take the opportunity to advertise Ian Crane's AV6, which will be taking place this coming weekend.
So I've been watching and 9/11 was just an incredible mind control event. You know, it was apparent to me then, as it is today, that people are literally mind controlled, that they're not actually thinking for themselves. Most of us are simply regurgitating.
We live in a bubble, and a lot of times, until you remove yourself from that bubble, you don't even know you're living in a bubble, in a kind of an information prison in the West.
But these guys have got a lot of money, and we complain about McDonald's and all that sort of thing. Do you know why they've got so much money? Because we fucking buy their shit. So it's time to stop it. People say to me, where do we go? What's the first step? Stop supporting the companies that don't give a shit.
Be who you are. Don't police your thoughts, and don't police your expression. Express yourself, but work for something positive. Express yourself in a positive way, create a better world because you're in it. Now, what is your legacy that you leave behind? Is the world better because you were here, or is it worse because you were here, or did you just not participate? Because you have to participate, you really do.
Well, welcome back to UK Column News, and I'll just say that Ian Crane's put a tremendous amount of work into setting up that AV6 conference. We desperately need more people to come together, share ideas and information about what's happening in Britain and indeed other places in the world. And apart from anything else, it's an opportunity to get together and rub shoulders with like-minded people. So if you can possibly get there, you've been thinking of attending AV6, but you're not sure, can we encourage you to get in touch with Ian Crane and to join us at the weekend? Well, of course, one of the things that David Cameron has consistently thumped the table about is Putin, President Putin. And according to David Cameron, President Putin, of course, is a dangerous aggressor who has been threatening the West and destabilizing, in particular, the Ukraine. Now, we've always been particularly impressed with David Cameron, and we noticed that he's recently taken some very serious steps in order to keep President Putin in check. So let's have a look at what David Cameron's been up to in his formation of government, and here we are. Well, we can tell you on very good authority that the secret weapon and indeed Putin's nemesis is Tory Rory Stewart, and he has been known for some time by his colleagues in Westminster as Florence of Arabia. Well, he's leaving the armed forces in tatters, but the good news is he's being promoted to look after food. So let's have a look at Tory Rory. Here he is. He's in his traditional, he's in his traditional English dress. And we'll remember that this gentleman was chair of the Defence Select Committee. He is a Bilderberger. He refuses to disclose to both the public and his constituents what exactly has taken place in his meetings with the Bilderberg organisation. He's a member of the immensely powerful Trilateral Commission, and of course he's also involved with the EU Council on Foreign Relations, and he's also involved with Prince Charles in a charity called Turquoise Mountain. Now, there he is, obviously an exceptionally strong character, but the good news is that he's going to be making sure that farming and food is going well in his new position as Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State at DEFRA. If you're in the Cumbria area and you voted for Rory Stewart, well, of course, in the coming weeks and months, you'll be able to congratulate yourself as UK Column predicts there will be an increasing attack on Britain's farming industry. So if Rory Stewart is about to step down from that Defence Select Committee, he should do with his new post. We're just waiting for the announcement. But let's remember what's been happening in Russia. This was broadcast a few days ago, but of course Russia's been showing off military might in a massive VE Day parade. And this is a picture of some of the celebrations in Moscow. And these celebrations, of course, were not attended by Western leaders in protest at the supposed aggression of President Putin in Ukraine. What was highly significant in this parade, of course, is that there were troops both from China and India. And here is obviously a BBC News shot of some of those Chinese troops in what was a first, Chinese troops parading on the streets of Moscow, and in the political benches watching this parade, of course, Putin was sat alongside Chinese officials. So very powerful forces coming together in Russia on that day. Let's remember the type of Prime Minister that Britain has. So faced with that event, let's remind ourselves of this, that Cameron was standing on the stage a few months ago telling NATO that we needed 5,000 troops to keep Europe safe from Russia. It's very difficult to comment on this. Is David Cameron simply foolish, or does he think that the public is so foolish to believe what is coming out of his mouth? But David Cameron has taken a very tough line on problems with defence, and this is his latest weapon against Putin. He's unleashed what we know as a Mordaunt attack, and he's very proud that Penny Mordaunt has become Minister for the Armed Forces and Minister of State at the MOD. So let's have a look at the weapon he's using, and here she is. We can bring you exclusive news that in fact President Putin is unfazed. He's got other things on his mind. Hey David Cameron, can I have her number? Well, we're going to do our best to make sure that President Putin does get her number and we can understand his interest. So if that's the state of the nation as far as defence is concerned, let's return to more serious things, and that is the abuse of children. And we'd like to thank Mr. Murin for sending us in this letter, which he had received from the Children's Commissioner. And the point of this letter is we get an insight into the importance with which children are viewed, and indeed the abuse of children, by the Children's Commissioner. So let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. Here we are. Dear Mr. Murin, thank you for your letter. I believe you're correct in your assertion that there are no official statistics on the cost of child sexual abuse to the national economy. However, in July 2014, the NSPCC published a report entitled Estimating the Costs of Child Sexual Abuse in the UK. The report is available on the NSPCC website. This is a recent and comprehensive attempt to model the costs of child sexual abuse to the economy. On this basis, we do not feel that it's necessary to commission further research on this matter. So a very, very interesting letter, we think, because what it is doing is fully acknowledging that there is a significant problem in this country with child abuse. That has a cost. The real cost, of course, is in human lives. But here we have the Children's Commissioner for England calmly saying, well, there has been a report done. We don't really know what the truth is, but we don't care. So we'll just move on a second here. Let's have a look and see what the new National Police Chief Council has been saying with regard to those reporting crime. And what they've said in black and white, and what better place to do it than with a tweet, is that the police will always start from the position where we believe the person who's reporting the crime. And AC Hewitt has come out with this statement. We can bring a picture of this gentleman on screen. Here he is. He's a nice looking man. He's got a very friendly looking face. And I wonder whether he actually believes what he says. We'll take it at face value and say we think he does. Well, he may do, but what's the reality? What do the police really do when child abuse crimes are reported to them? Well, we think it works like this. We've got Robert Green, certainly not believed by the police, but then he was bullied by the police and imprisoned. We've got Melanie Shaw, child abuse victim and whistleblower, not believed by the police, bullied by the police and imprisoned. We've got the very brave Oxford Asian gentleman who reported abuse of children at Oxford and Cherwell Valley College. He was not believed by the police, but he was subsequently bullied and victimised by Thames Valley Police Force. We've got Holly Gregg herself, child abuse victim, not believed by the police and effectively bullied and victimised by the police, of course, because the effect on this very vulnerable young person that the police did not believe her amounts to abuse. We've got Ben Fellows, who stood up to report the abuse of youngsters and also his own abuse, not believed by the police, subsequently viciously bullied by the police and then imprisoned. And we'll end with the mother in the Hampstead child abuse case. This is the picture of the mother, Ella Draper. And of course, not only was she not believed by the police, the testimony of the children was not believed by the police, but the family certainly bullied by the police and no further action taken. So we're going to say, Mr. Hewitt, you've got a very kind, smiling face. We're going to say, we think you believe what you're telling the public, but unfortunately, of course, it is totally untrue. The facts show that Britain's police forces do everything but believe people who come forward to report child abuse. Why are they doing that? Well, our opinion is in order to protect the paedophiles, which are closely linked to the highest levels of Britain's political circles and indeed establishment figures. Well, perhaps we should be able to trust Sarah Thornton, who's the head of the new police organisation. This is a BBC report going back a while where Thames Valley Police were boasting that they were taking place in dawn raids in order to arrest paedophiles. Of course, all of the paedophiles arrested were of Asian origin. Meanwhile, Thames Valley Police did nothing to address abuse by white individuals. But why were we interested in this? Well, of course, we have to bring this lady on screen. Here she is, Sarah Thornton. She's now president of NPCC. And of course, we've put in the UK column their cover with the Asian gentleman who made over 80 reports of youngsters being abused at Oxford and Cherwell Valley College, but the police, of course, took no action. Was this in order to keep the attention on Asians and indeed then bring the thing full circle to the terrorist nature, to get white people in Britain to suspect that every criminal, every paedophile was in fact Asian? We think there's some merit in that, but perhaps Sarah Thornton would like to comment in her new role as president of NPCC. Well, there we have it. In Scotland, the police state is forming rapidly with one political party, a politicised judiciary and a fully armed police force that is increasingly visible on Scotland's streets. The same policy is now unfolding south of the border And of course, Theresa May still in post as Home Secretary, and she is already pushing for further state powers, including snooping. We'll leave it there. We're trying to get to the heart of the matter as the new politics of David Cameron unfolds. And as I've just mentioned, over the next few days, we'll have a look in detail at his selection of the powerful political people forming government. Well, after the news, there will be a rerun of Fracking Nightmare. That was shown last night live, but there were some technical problems, so unfortunately we weren't able to immediately upload it. But following the news, if you didn't see Fracking Nightmare, stay with us and you can watch a rerun of that programme. And I'll end on a note, in case you're not aware, that Louise Collins has moved on to new pastures, and we're very pleased that she's now managed to launch her new website. It's a very good looking website. Louise is going to stick on hot topics in the news, and I know that she's very keen to stay on the subject of child abuse. So we're going to say from UK Column, we wish her well with that. I'm sure we're going to be meeting up in the near future. And Louise provided quite an example because as a single mother, she found time to get out there and to start her own radio show and her own internet radio in order to get the truth out about what was happening in UK. If she can do it, if we can do it, if Ian Crane and many others can do it, just have a think, can you do it? Because what we really need is as many people as possible to be out there talking about what is really happening in UK and telling the truth. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.